London and Buckingham Palace have never seen a scene like this. The Tour de France is in town, and in 4 minutes' time the first rider will begin in the prologue time trial. Here on Versus we'll be live for all 189 riders who will take their chance around the streets of London. George Hincapie moments ago warming up. Next time we see him it will be for real. Hello everybody, Phil Liggett with Paul Sherwin. Yes, the 94th Tour de France beginning in London, and for us two Brits we are at home. Well, let's first of all go straight to the route of the prologue and the Tour route in general, Paul.
Well, Paul, Phil, it is in fact an incredible day here this afternoon. Magical weather and a very testing course for the riders. At 7.9 kilometres they're going to face, and I tell you, they're going to see some of the most famous historical monuments that London has to offer. The riders start right on the side of the Thames on the embankment to move inland. They go around the Serpentine, back in front of Buckingham Palace to finish in the Mall. And as you can see, the course not really difficult at just inside of 5 miles. That little ripple, by the way, is Constitution Hill.
And the course itself about as long as the Mackinac Bridge in Michigan. That's also 5 miles, and we've been here twice before in England, but we have never had the Grand Depart in the streets of London in the 94 event history of the Tour. Well, it's going to be a marvellous day today, and there are in fact 3 American riders in this race, Paul, who could win the prologue time trial.
There certainly are. I have to say one of those riders is a man who I think is one of the fastest riders in the world. Dave Zabriskie was a winner of the Tour de France at first stage back in 2005. Very aerodynamic, very fast, and a man looking for a win.
Well, when George Hincapie was presented to a large crowd in Trafalgar Square last night, he said he could win the prologue. We will see. Levi Leipheimer, he may well win today, but he's also thinking of winning the Tour de France in 3 weeks. We're looking at the first rider in the start house as they now begin to go one by one. The riders now making their way over what is just 8 kilometres and just 5 miles as they now begin the rides. Enrico Degano is the first down for Barlow World to an enormous cheer. Paul, take a look at that crowd.
It is an absolutely phenomenal crowd. When I came here at 8:30 this morning, I didn't think there was going to be a big crowd, but they've been rolling in all through the morning and in the early part of the afternoon, and now there are people all around this 8-kilometre course. Enrico Degano has the honour of opening up this prologue time trial, and he, of course, on the arrival will start the clock as the fastest man. But there are some big names racked up towards the top end of the start list, Phil, and those are the kind of guys that we're waiting to see. Dave Zabriskie, by the way, the American national time trial champion, starts very early on at number 61, and I think that will be the very big indication as that we will get of what the fastest times are going to be.
Well, Degano is underway. He's the man in the hot seat. He's going to blaze a trail through the most famous streets in the world, I think. We've left the Prime Minister's Road, Downing Street, going along Whitehall, heading into Constitution Hill now. It is a tough course, and today, unbelievably, is a perfect day. And for 2.5 months, we've had nothing but rain, hailstones, thunder, lightning, torrential floods in parts of the country. Today, it has dawned a perfect day for the Tour de France. And I know that the Lord Mayor of London, Ken Livingstone, will be pretty pleased about that. Listen to the crowd now as Enrico Degano, he's a rider we might be talking about, Paul, later on in the race. He's a very fast sprinter. He could win a stage of this race.
Very fast sprinter, joins Robbie Hunter as one of the fastest men on Team Barlow World, and they will certainly be looking for glory on the individual stages. Degano is a rapid finisher. He won 4 races last year. He's won a race so far in the early part of this season. Sorry about the little bit of picture lock-up, but that's because of all the tall buildings as we skirt around this course there. There is Westminster Cathedral that the riders are going past just now, and that's nothing at all to do with Westminster Abbey. The riders will move in a little while not too far away from Victoria Station. There you can see passing right in front of Buckingham Palace. Phil, this is unbelievable to think that we're commentating on the Tour de France in front of some of these monumental historical buildings of the United Kingdom.
Well, here we come past the Queen's residence now, the flag flying high on the pole there. And normally this is reserved for the tourists as they watch the changing of the guard. Well, this year they're watching the Tour de France. Enrico Degano has never ridden the Tour de France before, although during his career he's won 21 races. The Barlow World team, which is a South African registered team, broke into the Tour on a wild card this year, and that's probably why they've put him off in first off. Now, Paul, it's 8 kilometres, 7.9, let's not argue over 100 metres, and it's 5 miles. Now, what sort of time do you think will win the race?
Well, I'm expecting an average speed of around about 54 kilometers an hour, 33 miles an hour. So the kind of time I'm expecting to win would be just outside 9 minutes and 5 seconds. That calculates to around about a minute 6, a minute 7 for each kilometre of the race covered. And I was talking to Chris Boardman, who actually is the record holder for the Prologue time trial at 55 kilometres an hour. He thought possibly, depending on the wind and the weather conditions today, a rider may well get inside of the 9-minute mark, but I think that's going to be very difficult. That will be somebody like Zabriskie, somebody like Wiggins, and maybe even, why not, George Hincapie.
That's absolutely right, Robbie, and we are now looking here at Oscar Freire in the start house. He's quite an early rider to go, considering the order. And Oscar Freire, 3 times a world champion, a very popular rider here on the Rabobank team. He's making his start. It'll be interesting to see just how good a ride he... Well, we got back there in time because Stewart, Australian, he was one of the crowd yesterday to receive the biggest cheer of the night. He's tremendously popular. He comes from Adelaide. He's the ambassador of their major race, now in its 10th year, the Tour Down Under. And O'Grady this year landed the big one. He won the queen of all the classic races, Paris-Roubaix, first Australian to do that. This is a man who will be looking over the next 3 weeks to win the green jersey. Paolo Savidelli here, who is a very, very good time trialist. He is a Prologue winner in the past, not in the Tour de France, but he's beaten similar guys to those who are here today. If he's feeling frisky, who knows? As we go back to watch the start here of the Française de Jeu rider, it'll be Thomas Lokvitz, who is the Swedish rider on this French team.
Yeah, a very good time trialist himself, and he'll be looking to put in a good performance. He's a rider who has openly said he would like to try and win the Best Young Riders competition. He's riding in his 2nd Tour de France from Sweden, and he's looking to try and see if he can win the competition. Grady's gone down here. He's taking a big risk in one of the corners. There are not many corners on this course, but O'Grady must have really been giving it. He was looking to put in a fast performance, and he's lost a lot of time as he's crashed just outside the kilometre to go banner.
Well, I would think we'll be able to get a look at that again. Yes, here we are now. He's skimmed right off the end of those foam bales, just clipped him with his right foot, and it took him right out of his stride. That was a heavy fall.
Very heavy fall indeed for Stuart O'Grady. Lost everything here. Any chance of getting a top performance at all for Stuart O'Grady? He will have been really pushing it, Phil, because as a man who can sprint, he knows that he had to try and get himself very close to the top times, because he would have been dreaming of trying to get himself the yellow jersey for another time, because he's worn it in the past.
He has, and he was obviously trying there. He wants a big Tour de France, there's no doubt about that. That is really sad for Stuart O'Grady. I can hear the people of Adelaide gasping from afar right now. Here, as Zabriskie's in the start house now, so welcome back to that too. Big moment for Dave Zabriskie here, because he knows he can win this if it all goes right. Best time still Astalosa, 9 minutes 23. Dave has got to get round the course faster than that. The stars and stripes of the national champion of the United States, and he quickly gets the revs up. You can probably hear the crowd as well. They know a champion when they see one. They know Dave's background in the Tour de France, in yellow on the floor, winning a stage. He's done everything in the Tour de France so far. Well, as it just turns 4 o'clock, one man who will know exactly what Zabriskie is capable of is Britain's own David Miller. Here's what he's got to say.
This course is actually made for him, like really is. It's not very technical. It's like I said, it's real pace control, real purist sort of prologue, in that it's going to be very fast and require a lot of self-discipline, which Dave does have when it comes to prologue riding and time trialing. He just gets in this kind of really disciplined state of mind. And I've said it before, I think Dave on a time trial bike is probably one of the most beautiful riders. He's just made for doing it, you know. He's just very solid and stiff. I mean, he's not nearly as natural on a road bike, but you put him on a time trial bike, I mean, that's what he's made for.
Also on a very good ride, because he's still a lot of firepower in those legs.
He's gone through the best time at 4.5 kilometres at exactly the same time as Dave Zabriskie. It's all now going to be, Phil, about the final 200 metres, and here is Zabriskie in the finishing line now.
Well, Zabriskie comes up, it's going to be best time, but will he have survived this last kilometre better than Vladimir Karpich behind him? Zabriskie might know, I don't know if he does or not, but now he's turning on the style here. He's left alone to the finishing straight now. The time to beat is 9 minutes 23. He's going to do it convincingly. I think I said 9:17. His time is 9:22.
Well, he faded just a fraction down towards the end, but now that is the new benchmark for Dave Zabriskie. Look at the face on Zabriskie here, but he stayed tight, he stayed aerodynamic right down towards the end, just peeking underneath his helmet there to look at the finish line. He now knows he's got the best time, but Phil, he's probably got the best of 2 hours to wait to know if he can win this.
Well, the man here who might cause a problem is Vladimir Karpit. So, Paul, take your mind back to the time trial in the Tour de Suisse just 2 weeks ago. Karpit shocked Cancellara by going fast in the early stages and then faded. Is it going to happen now?
Well, the important thing about the time trial is you have to use your effort over the whole of the distance. Karpit's safely around that corner that took out Stuart O'Grady around about half an hour ago. He now is looking at the Flamme Rouge. He was in exactly the same time as Zabriskie. He's 8:09, and that's almost exactly the same time as Zabriskie was at this point 2 minutes ago.
It is going to be a second either way. It's a question of which way, and Dave Zabriskie might find he's not staying on top of the leaderboard for more than about a minute here, as Vladimir Karpit looks terrific with those long legs, the Russian here stamping it out. He got the white jersey when he came to the Tour de France about 3 or 4 years ago. He held the lead the year after that, but he didn't win it as more young riders started to come through. But right now, his only concern is to get the first yellow jersey of the Tour de France. He's trying to do that by setting best times. Zabriskie is home with 9:22.98. You can hear the team management through the little megaphone on top of the car shouting him on, and he knows now it's a matter of a second.
It's a matter of a second or two as he now concentrates. He looks at the clock above the finish line. He knows he's going to take it very close. But this is a phenomenal performance by Karpit.
Well, there's the time of Zabriskie, and Karpit is going to beat it. 9:16.77. That is a massive beating by 6 seconds.
A huge beating of Dave Zabriskie, who we were expecting to be one of the major favourites before the start of this prologue, but that is a good ride.
Well, this is it. We've seen him on the leaderboard at half distance, and is he going to topple Karpit? It will be a surprise. Gusev is a young, developing rider who has become the champion of his country in the time trial. Why shouldn't the champion be the champion of his country here today in London? He's got 5 seconds to get to that line. I don't know if he's going to do it. He's seen the clock and he's jumped out the saddle, and he's done it by 3/4 of a second, Paul.
That is very close indeed. You know, he knows he's got. He just in fact saluted the crowd there, a little wave to them. He knew that he'd just got inside. At this point, he looked at the clock. There's a clock above the finish line. He knew how close he was. He sprinted, every last little bit of energy coming out of his body at this point, throws it at the line, stops the clock. Thank you very much. Russia first and second.
Wheels the whirling.
Yep, £1,000. This man riding the Tour de France for the last time, been a great animator for Dutch cycling. Michael Bogert, former national champion. In fact, he helped one of his teammates, Phil, win the national title just about a week ago. But here, going out of the starting gate, here's Rick Verbrugge. Not a bad ride by Rick Verbrugge, the holder of the record of the fastest ever prologue in a Grand Tour. And that was in the Giro d'Italia at the amazing speed of 58 kilometers an hour.
We were there. It was incredible that day, but he hasn't repeated it when he rides in the prologues in the Tour de France. As Verbrugge comes up again, he was the last rider to be named in the Cofidis team, and he's just crossed the line with the 9th best time at the moment. So that means 113 riders have now finished, and that's not a bad position for Rick Verbrugge there of Belgium.
Man that many people think will be the winner of the Tour de France, Alejandro Valverde.
As he takes in the final deep breaths, Alejandro Valverde now looking to try and succeed in this year's Tour de France. Bad memories last year when he crashed in Verviers in Belgium. He never rode across the border to the finish in Holland. He went instead to hospital. Before that, he'd beaten Lance Armstrong to the top of Courchevel in a mountain stage in a previous year. He rides a good time trial, and if we're going to get a big surprise in the prologue, this man should deliver it.
I think he should deliver it. He's won time trials in the past. He's improved his time trialing ability as well. He realises if he wants to win the Tour de France, it's in the time trial that he needed to make his improvements, and he's certainly done that. Phil, just before the start this morning, I was doing an interview in the park just across the road from here, and I was telling people that I thought that Alejandro Valverde was going to be one of the big favourites to win the Tour de France, and all around me there were Spanish supporters, and they were going, Alejandro, Alejandro, and I'm sure that they're out there this afternoon right up against the barriers, pushing this man forward at speeds of around about 52, 54 kilometres an hour.
I just hope you turn around and said Bradley Wiggins, back to them. Because,
of course.
Obviously they're biased. That is the yellow jersey of the Tour de France. They all want them here. This is Iban Mayo at the moment racing up towards the line. No, this isn't Mayo. This is Cloden. We'll get it right here. This is the finish of Cloden coming up towards the line. There's the time to beat of 9:15. He's got lots of time on his side here. I think he may even have picked up in the closing 4 kilometres as well. New best time, charging up the mole. This is Andreas Cloden of Germany now, who's going to go top of the leaderboard, and what a beating, 12 seconds, 9:3.3. You're going to have to beat 9 minutes to win this race.
You are certainly going to have to beat 9 minutes now to win this race. That was a phenomenal performance by Andreas Cloden, fastest man at 4.5 kilometres by 8 seconds. He has knocked everybody for 6 with a ride like that. That is going to be very difficult indeed to beat. 12 seconds faster than Gusev and Carpets. Phil, that is a ride.
That is a ride, and George Hincapie should have heard that, because he's about to make his run now, and he knows that the time he is aiming back is 9 minutes 3 seconds. And there he is, as we look now, he's in the start house, I think, and he's on his way, and he should be going, and once he's out on course, he knows now what he's got to do, Paul, as we switch here out on course to Sylvain Chavanel. Hincapie's behind now by, 7 kilometres, but he knows he's got to do 9 minutes 3 seconds, and he's shaved just into second place against Hushoff. We are now at the start house for David Miller, the rider who has won the opening stage of the Tour de France in the past. It was a long time trial then, and that was when Lance Armstrong came up to us and said, who's the British guy? And we told him, but by then he'd already beaten Lance Armstrong in the opening time trial. This is a big moment for David now. He's waited to ride this race ever since it was announced he came to London. He made sure he got team selection. We know he's extremely nervous. We've been told he is. Can he produce it?
Well, he's come out of the starting house there, Phil, very fast indeed. And listen, that's the loudest we've heard the crowd so far here this afternoon. A little bit partisan, I suppose. I spoke to his confidant and mentor, the former Tour de France rider from Great Britain, Max Chiandri. He said that David Miller for the last week has been as nervous as a first-year professional.
Well, that's a good sign in my book, because that means you come out so wound up, you've got to let the clock spring go and get it all out here and now. It's goodbye to Westminster Abbey now, as David Miller turns his back on one of London's famous sights. He hugs the barriers. He's searching to make this a 7.8 kilometre course rather than 7.9. Meanwhile, back in the start house, Alexander Vinokourov, the favourite for the Tour de France, is chasing him. Now, surely that's an inspiration.
Well, that must surely be an inspiration. Don't worry too much about Alexander Vinokourov. He's not a bad long-distance time trialist. He finished third in the long time trial in the 2005 Tour de France. But Phil, that was 19 kilometres, not 8 kilometres like today's time trial. We'll be looking for Vinokourov, I think, later in the Tour.
I'm absolutely sure you're right, but he's now chasing David Miller, the British favourite now, and the boy who lives just over the road and probably shops down here in Oxford Street. He looks very, very concentrated. The champion of Athens with a gold medal, a silver and a bronze. Well, this is the moment, Paul. It's not the time to ask what he's thinking about. I would say absolutely nothing other than being the fastest man in London today. As he goes down that ramp, he grits his teeth, he kicks with every pedal like pistons now. He knows that probably the vast majority of the crowd know this man. They're going to shout him around this course. He's got the gold, silver and bronze medals. The Queen gave him the Order of the British Empire because of that. But I think he'd give them all back if he could win the prologue today.
He has got no more chances in his life to win the prologue time trial of the Tour de France in London. This is a big pressure for this man this afternoon. He knows that. He's trained for that. I'm absolutely convinced that since the end of the Dauphiné Libéré, where he won the prologue time trial in that event, Phil, this man has now fought London. That's all that's been in his mind for the last few weeks, to get himself ready for this. He now knows this is his discipline, this is his speciality. As you said, he's got Olympic medals at this discipline, he's got world medals at this distance. This is what he wants now.
And because he is a Londoner, he was the ambassador of this weekend here and has been very busy doing PR, but the last couple of days he's gone a little bit into quietness, waiting for the big moment.
Well, I have to say, I think our hopes for Great Britain are going to have to lie on the shoulders of Brad Bradley Wiggins, because Miller has gone through the first time check 11 seconds off the mark. I don't think he'll pick that up in the last part of the race. Wiggins now is carrying the hopes of a nation here, and what a magical start that would be, Phil, if Bradley Wiggins can win the prologue.
He's thinking a lot further ahead than the finishing line in the mall of the prologue time trial. He's thinking the finishing line on the Champs-Élysées in the shadow of the Arc de Triomphe in 3 weeks' time. But he can deliver the goods in a time trial. We've seen him do it in the Tour of Georgia, in the Tour of California, in the Dauphiné Libéré race. This man can ride a cool time test, and look at that, his eyes fixed straight ahead, just using his legs as he kicks. He's a bow jersey in the start house now. The only man entitled to wear it this year is the man who won the title last year, Fabian Cancellara. He won the prologue of the Tour de Suisse. He has won the prologue of the Tour de France in the past, and he's told us he's going to win it again today.
Well, we saw him, Phil, in the Tour of Switzerland just recently, and he was absolutely flying. He top and tail that race in the time trial, won the prologue time trial, and won the final time trial as well. But he wants to win this. He, in fact, yesterday said at the team presentation, I want everybody to see that the world champion is the best.
Well, the way he was kicking the bike there, Paul, I was hoping it wasn't going to fall to pieces, because he really did give it some strong pedal strokes coming down that ramp, quickly into his riding style here. Now, the world champion of the time trial coursing through the streets of London as Fabian Cancellara will try to catch up with that police escort in front. If there's anybody left in the race now who can remove Andreas Kloden from the top, it is Fabian Cancellara, and maybe Moreau as well.
Well, maybe Moreau. Moreau is riding very well, but Moreau is not. He's a little bit too old to actually get the pace high. Michael Rogers will be in the starting gate. And let's not forget, Philip, we're talking about world champions. He was 3 times world champion at this discipline, and he is looking at being right on form for this 3 weeks. So maybe too, Michael Rogers could do the best time trial performance he's done in the last possible. Oscar Pereiro, 2nd overall last year, last man to start.
The last man to go out of the start house, bringing to an end the starters in the opening prologue of the Tour de France, rider number 189. Oscar Pereiro has done nothing this year except try to get in the team for the Tour de France. And the rider who won last year is going to do nothing this time out in the prologue time trial, because this is Tour Hushovd. I don't think he's got quite the same form as he had 1 year ago in Strasbourg, as he slips away from the leaderboard.
Well, he was a great time trialist as an amateur. In fact, he was a world under-23 time trial champion, but he doesn't really seem to have had the great form this season. He's there in 23rd place, as all of the other sprinters, Phil, not very far off the top of the board, and that's probably going to be fairly important for him. Out on course, though, now is Alessandro Ballan, as we flick back to Christophe Moreau. I think the French are looking to see whether Moreau can put in a top performance here this afternoon, because for him it's going to be important if he's going to be the best Frenchman at the end of this 3 weeks of racing. 5:07 for Cancellara ahead of Kloden, Hincapie and Carpets.
The fastest ever prologue time trial, 34.3 miles an hour or 55.192 kilometers an hour. He must be running that very, very close, and we watch him clip this corner now, takes it wide, almost brushes with his shoulder here. Now let's watch him when he gets to O'Grady's bend up the road a little ways, because that's where Stuart O'Grady came to grief. Back to the finish, Denny Menchov, another man for long-term possibilities in the Tour this year. The Russian rider expects to do well. His time trial, nothing special. 27 seconds off Kloden. It could be over half a minute when Cancellara gets home.
Well, Cancellara sitting up, he's almost putting the motorbikes into difficulty. They can't get around these corners as fast as he can, Phil. They don't realise how fast this man is going.
He's coming right up behind. That was the O'Grady bend, but now he's sprinting after those bikes who almost got caught by this flyer from Switzerland. He's got to beat the time. He's going to go inside. He's going to go inside 8 minutes.
He is going to go inside of 9 minutes when he comes to the finish line. He's inside of 8 minutes at 1 kilometre to go. Phil, I think we are looking at 8 minutes and 55 seconds when this man comes up to the finish line, and he doesn't look like a man who is going to slow down at all. He's looking now at the sweeping bend right in front of him, right in front of Buckingham Palace. Cadel Evans could probably feel his breath on his neck.
Well, Cadel Evans, another man looking to the future and not to the prologue, but that's a great ride from Cadel. It's overshadowed. Look at the distance, the far distance of the world champion of the time trial, the man who has won the prologue before in Belgium. Doesn't seem to like winning them in France, because now he's going to win this one in London as he rides on the straight. This has been a ride to save your life. Cancellara has put the icing on the cake for a brilliant London organisation. celebration today as he sprints towards the line to beat the 9-minute barrier. He beat it, he annihilated 8 minutes and 50 seconds. No one left can do that.
There's nobody left in this bike race. Michael Rogers, I'm sure, could not do that at all, because Michael Rogers is not in the top 5 at 4.5 kilometres. Fabian Cancellara announced to us yesterday, Phil, I'm the world champion at this discipline. I'll show you I'm the best. I think he's done it.
There's no doubt he has done it. How long will he keep the lead? Because the yellow jersey awaits him now. Oscar Pereiro is being blown away by the exhaust stream, I think, of Fabian Cancellara. He started 2 minutes behind Cancellara. Ahead of Pereiro is Rogers. They're not going to pierce that. A very, very rare atmosphere, I can assure you of that.
Well, I tell you what, Oscar Pereiro has not done too bad a ride. He's only 20 seconds off Fabian Cancellara. When you know how fast Cancellara was going, that's a good performance at half distance. By the way, he's wearing number 11. The organisation of the Tour de France this year have decided not to issue number 1, which normally goes to last year's winner, because, as we all know, last year's winner is not yet decided and it's still in arbitration. So Oscar Pereiro is wearing number 11. Number 1 won't exist.
By Oscar Pereiro, totally overshadowed by Fabian Cancellara, but Pereiro also has found the form he wants now for the long journey to the Eiffel Tower, which is 3 weeks away tomorrow.
Well, as I always say at this point of the Tour, Phil, there's still 4 Sundays to go before we get to the Champs-Élysées. I think that's a good performance. Oscar Pereiro, 21st, losing himself 36 seconds. He'll be happy when he looks at the result sheet tonight.
Yes, he's almost half smiling here. Maybe somebody told him Fabian Cancellara's time. I can't get over that. The only man to break the 9 minutes barriers. So that is a tremendous ride by Oscar Pereiro. Big Ben ticks on quietly, unassumingly. He gave us a clang at 6:15 and will continue at 6:30 as well. 8 minutes 50, 13 seconds better than Cloden, and the only man inside 9 minutes for 8 kilometres. Formidable. Hincapie in 3rd slot, Wiggins in 4th, Gusev in 5th. These boys are champions all. Vladimir Karpich must be shocked now to be sitting in 6th. He looks so good halfway through. Vinokurov, the man with the favourite tag on him, is in 7th place here. Newcomer, 22-year-old Decker in 8th. Quinziato's done a great ride to take 9th. And the champion of France didn't disgrace his new jersey there, Vonnegut in 10th. David Zabriskie probably won't be too happy with this. In the end, he was best time when he finished, then got pushed to 2nd and now finishes in 11th place. Champion of Spain, Gutierrez, is 12th. The other top Brit, David Miller, unlucky 13th for him. And the top 15 propped up there by another newcomer here, Alberto Contador. A little bit further down for you, top Australian, Cadel Evans, getting one over on Michael Rogers there. Rogers only finishing in 20th place. And a good ride too from Sylvain Chavanel, the former time trial champion of France. He was in the years 2005 and 6. Their champion loses 36. This is the moment. A man from Switzerland salutes the crowd, just like he did in Belgium a couple of years ago in Liège. Fabian Cancellara. Fabian, I really think we should say fabulous Cancellara.
I think you're quite right there, Phil, because that performance today was fabulous, phenomenal. Many expletives come to mind, but he's the only man who got inside that 9-minute mark, and he looked powerful just coming out of the starting round.
One, two. Hello and welcome as we look here at the city of Canterbury now, which is waiting the start of the first stage of the Tour de France. This is a beautiful city. I've got nothing. Well, this is the map here, the whole of the route around France, of course, but the first 2 days have been spent very much around London. As we look here now, it's 3 weeks today before we finish in the Eiffel Tower. We spent yesterday in the prologue. Today we're spending a ride of 126 miles as we leave London and dive south and west as we head out east rather towards the finish in Canterbury. 203 kilometres, no real hills along the way. Let's have a look at some facts for you. It's about the distance in San Francisco to Monterey in California, and it's the first Tour de France ever to finish in Canterbury. So there are 3 intermediate sprints along the way and 3 category 4 climbs. So we're watching now the start of what is a very special stage. These are the men we expect to be down in touch with the sprint at the finishing line today. Robbie McEwen, three-time green jersey winner. Tom Bonen, who crashed out the previous, he's looking for a big win now. And Thor Hushovd, who became the first Norwegian ever to take the green jersey in the Tour de France. Don't know whether he's sprinting well enough just yet, but he's certainly shown us that he wants to be in the frame here. 4 career Tour de France stage wins for him, and not least, of course, the Prologue in Strasbourg last year. Well, the green jersey competition is what we'll concentrate on in these early days. This is how it happens. You get stage points when you finish in the top 5 places. They're big points, but they go right down to 25th place, where you get a single point for crossing line 25th. And during the medium stages, when there's not so many hard climbs, you have slightly less points, but finally you get points. Very important to remember that along the way you get points 6, 4 and 2 at the special sprint stages, and that's where you can pick them up. There they are, first to third at the intermediate sprints. And let's go and have a look how the race has gone so far before I join Paul Sherwin in commentary. This was the start at just before 11 o'clock this morning in the city of London at Tower Bridge. The riders cutting the ribbon there, along with Ken Livingstone on the left, the Mayor of London, and the riders underway. And the famous British infantry there with the Busbies on, watching the race leave. A very, very interesting shot indeed. Saying goodbye to the River Thames. Cancellara, the winner of the Prologue yesterday, has the first yellow jersey as they made their way out towards the race start proper at Greenwich. And the riders then facing up to 126 miles. A big attack early on. David Miller making the move for Great Britain, 13th in the Prologue yesterday, quickly joined by a small group of riders, but at the start it was all Miller. Then we went to the first sprint at Gillingham, and it was here where Miller was still clear on his own by about a minute on a chase group of 4 riders. So Miller got it ahead of Grifko and Kuzinski. But of course the main field at this point 5.5 minutes behind. The catch then came as the riders came together in the region of Chatham in the Medway towns. Miller wisely waiting for these riders with a lead of 5 minutes on the field. And then 5 riders coming together, and again another sprint, this time at the village of Teston. The crowd's totally enormous all the way along the race. Miller getting the maximum points in the green jersey competition. He now has 12 points in that competition. All right, well now we can go down to the live action on today's route of the Tour de France. Well, looking at the riders here, Paul, this has been a most unique occasion. Huge crowds. The gap for the first time for many kilometres coming down a little bit. 4 minutes and 56 seconds. They're just pegged at the minute.
Yeah, I think Team CSC, Phil, have got this race pretty much under control. They're not panicking at all now. They know they've got 100 kilometres to go. They've got 2.5 hours of racing still under their belts before they can get themselves to the finish line. And I think they are fairly confident now that when they need to, they can turn up the screws and pull this race back together again.
Now the rider who abandoned, by the way, the Spanish rider Eduardo Gonzalo for Agri-Turbal, the first rider to give up the Tour, such an early stage. Apparently there was a touch of wheels. He did crash and he has injured his shoulder. We had no word of that on Radio Tour, so we're very sad for the young Spanish rider. In his first Tour de France, Paul, it's hardly started and he's out.
That's very tough indeed, because he'd only done about 60, 70 kilometres into his first Tour de France, and that will be a sad day for him. The main field now going through the feeding zone, and you see how Team CSC all up at the front end of the main field. Also in the dark blue jersey there, not wanting to get involved in any possible accidents towards the rear, is Tom Bonen being very attentive. That's a sign to me that the big Belgian sprinter is thinking about the finish. Cadel Evans also very close to the front end of the main field. I have to say, in the time trial yesterday, Phil, of all of the contenders, I was very impressed by the time trial of Cadel Evans, because Cadel is not really renowned as a prologue time trialist, but I think he's improved his time trialing a lot, and probably enough to seriously think this year about a podium position.
Well, around about 63 miles to go here, 97 kilometres or so. Royal Tunbridge Wells is the venue for the field. The leaders have passed through. They've gone through about 5 minutes ago. And the riders down there were being led through by Jens Boyd, who was ferreting around to see what food they'd passed up there in that little bag, and enjoying the crowd. A tremendous atmosphere the whole route today. One big smile as the riders have seen huge crowds all the way along the route. 5 minutes still officially the time gap, the peloton. The yellow jersey and the green jersey owned by the same rider at the moment, Fabian Cancellara, after yesterday's win in the time trial. So the face here of David Miller, who really was determined after his time trial yesterday. You may have heard on Versus him say at the finish, he didn't do a great ride, but he couldn't have done better, he said. He finished 13th in the end, but he knows now he can win a stage of this year's race. Right now we're on the Côte de Goudhurst, or Côte de Goudhurst, or Goudhurst Hill. There's the USA flag on the left. And here comes the cavalry right down the centre, as everybody just wants to get on television right now. I don't think it's the top of Alpe d'Huez, but I could be excused, I think. Is that snow or cloud up there, Paul?
Somehow I think that's cloud at the top of Goudhurst Hill, as these riders now. And for David Miller, he's in first position. He's now going to have to be very attentive. He wants to get himself maximum points if he wants any hope of trying to get himself. And now there's a surprise move.
This has come from Freddie Bichou. Decided he's not fast enough to beat these guys, so he's gone early. And they weren't ready for that one. Hats off to the Frenchman. It's still a little bit of a sprint. Miller's got a good position tagged onto the tail, but I think he's going to be beaten by the boys who've got a little bit too serious in the sprint now. And Bichou has gone for this, and he's not going to get it because it's going to be the Liquigas rider, Kuzinski rather, who's gone over the top of him. And I can't see Griff go, so he must have fallen back. Well, this is a good result, I suppose. Kuzinski got 1 point last time, so he's got 4 now. And he's been dropped again. Well, what about that? They've underestimated our little hills in the south of England, Paul.
I think they certainly have underestimated the climbs here, and you can see that there's another move going from the rider from Agri-Tubel. He realised that he'd started it off, and unfortunately for him, this is an interminable hill down here in the south of England.
Yes, because there's no big banners on a 4th category hill. They're not too sure where the top is. And Stefan Auger, there's the banner up the road, might well snatch the points here, but I think Freddie Bichou done the right thing. First Tour de France for him, and on his very first full day of racing, he grabs points in the King of the Mountains. This time he's well beaten, and they've given up now. He can have a little rest. Look at the crowd on the climb of Goudhurst Hill. There is the line, no banner, but there's a definite line, and he's got it. Freddie Bichou gets the points. Rather spoilt the perfect day for David Miller, that.
I tell you what, though, that hurt. You can just see as he crossed the line, he's already gasping for breath. He really put himself into oxygen debt there. I think he thought this was going to be one of those sort of Breton climbs, which is around about 1 kilometre long. But this climb was getting pretty close to 2 kilometres here. Is the other Frenchman in the breakaway coming clear, Stefan Auger. He's coming up to make it 2.
Yes.
David Miller actually seemed to be under a little bit of pressure there when the accelerations came.
Just wish our camera would look back. David just got 1 point. That might be enough to give him the King of the Mountains. But the tailwind there on another new flag. That was the flag of Flanders flying there with the black line on it, and indicating a tailwind up the climb. Good spin. Very famous hill in club cycling down in Kent, Goudhurst Hill. Now seen it, I'm going to make sure I never go there on my bike.
Well, I think 1 or 2 of these riders wish they hadn't gone there on their bikes either, because it was quite explosive, the acceleration to get up there to the top.
Well, that was tremendous, as the peloton dropping back a little bit there, 5:46. And Miller's come through our picture in 3rd frame. We'll have to wait for the result, but if he got the point, it might be the difference. He didn't. Kuzinski got the point there. So that's going to mean at the moment Kuzinski has got 2 points, Miller has got 3, and that all's well with Bichou, who's also got 3. So they really need to stay away now till Tenterton Hill, which is still about 11 miles away. So that might be touch and go. If they can contest the hill at Tenterton, that will certainly decide who goes in tomorrow in the polka dot jersey. Are now taking this a little bit more serious now. The time has come to reel in the 5 boys out front, and I think they will. I don't think we can hold out any hope they will survive. They don't believe there's any hope they can survive, because 3 major teams with major sprinters now, McEwen, Bonen and Thor Hushoff, have sent their team mates to the front to give CSC a hand and bring them back so that one of those 3 can win the day. That's the theory, and as I say, it doesn't always work out, but that's the theory.
That's the theory, and I think the theory will be respected here once we get down to the finish line. But for the leading group of 5, they have survived for the final sprint point of the day as the riders make their way into the outskirts of Tenterden. There is a final bonus sprint point as well. Miller has been one been completely successful so far. He's taken both of them out on the road and grabbed himself a 12 seconds time bonus to be deducted from his overall time in this race. And I think he'll be trying to look to see whether or not he can grab the next 6 seconds as well. 500 meters to go for the sprint. Miller just moving himself into an ideal position to try and grab this one.
I think he's going to make a move for it. He's going to follow Bichou, who's becoming his rival in this breakaway here. But watch out for Grivko, who's lining up just behind him. He's in his third Tour de France. 156 Kaczynski. He's in his first Tour de France, and won't believe that there's crowds like this all the way around the route every day. Miller's got himself in the hot seat now. Not the best place to be if you want to win a sprint. But we're into Tenterden here now, and this is one of the beautiful towns here in Kent. Usually a very busy, bustling town. You would take a long time to get down this road on a normal day, but not today in the Tour de France. Bichot's opening up, and Grivko heard him coming. Grivko's tried to push him over to the barriers, but Kaczynski's gone through on the other side. Miller says, I'm having none of that. Go and fight it out for yourself. Kaczynski wins it, and then I think it was probably Bichot in second place, with Grivko taking the third.
Well, just looking at that massive sprint there, I'm a little bit surprised. Maybe Miller is starting to weaken after putting a lot of effort in the early part of this breakaway. But that sprint, I have to say there, Phil, I can only imagine that they were sprinting it out for the money, because these riders are a long way down in the overall classification. And there really is a phenomenal crowd here on the side of the road, probably better than we've seen in many, many years. Now, and you noticed it was Kaczynski and the lime green of Liquigas that pulled them all back together. But I think you can see that the cohesion has disappeared from this group now. They're starting to lose it. The body's starting to get that little bit pained. And we're probably looking at not very much more than an hour and a quarter, hour and 20 minutes to the finish. So it's getting to the very important part of the game when the leading group of 5 know that the writing is pretty much on the wall for them. It's a question of when will they get caught, not if they will get caught.
Well, I know that Davy Miller would love this to just hang on out there until he gets to the last 20 kilometres or 12 miles. Oh, there's been a crash. Oh, that's been quite a prank. Now, I don't know how that happened. Or Cameron, it looks like the breakaway. Oh, no, it's in the peloton. Same riders, but it's in the peloton. They've hit a... And there you can hear it there. And that was a nasty break there. Because the rider going down there for Team Milram was, in fact, Brett Lancaster. That's Brett Lancaster of Australia, who is on the right hand. Well, we've been talking about the crash. We've lost one rider early today, but that is by far the worst fall. That's a shame.
Well, Lancaster is up. He looks okay, Lancaster, but that's what it's always about. The first day on the open road, Phil, the guys are all very nervous indeed. And the central islands, the directional islands used for controlling the traffic, are not very handy for bike racing on the open road either. And that's what's making cycling much more dangerous all over Europe.
Well, that is very, very sad. Nobody's fault. Christian Moreni is the rider in red trying to get through there, but that has happened in St. Michael's, I think the town is, where it's happened. I'll be a little bit further down the road here, near Betherston. But look at this at the moment. This is Xavier Zandio. We thought it might have been Alejandro Valverde, but it's his teammate who's gone down. It hurts whoever you are, but it's less important for the team.
I would like to hope that Alejandro Valverde is riding at the front end of the main field. Let's not forget he was robbed of a chance of vying for a high finish overall last year in the Tour de France when he crashed very early on and broke his collarbone. And in fact, poor old Valverde on that occasion, just about 12 months ago, Phil, was actually riding in around about 25th position when that crash went down. So unfortunately, it happened at the front end of the main field on that occasion, not at the back.
Obviously, the riders did not sight that central obstruction there as they were splitting for it. It was padded, as you saw, but Brett still managed to land rather awkwardly. Brett, the fastest rider in the world in 4,000 metres in team pursuit, holds the world record. Oh, and that's a replay. I nearly jumped out my skin again. I looked up and saw another crash. I'm sorry about that, everyone, but I thought that was the replay. That's Brett Lancaster landed very awkwardly. Zandio on the ground nearest camera, and the other faller here was the rider from Agri Turbal. I couldn't quite see his face there, but I hope they're okay. I think they were. You probably heard the crowd applaud as the riders rode off, appreciating the situation of the day. 2:26, now it's time to get matters put to right. You can see his arms already started to bleed. Now this is why cyclists have to be tough. There's no taking the rest of the day off or the rest of the week. you have to not only finish every day of the Tour de France, you have to finish within a very strict time limit, otherwise you're eliminated.
Well, you have to get right back into it as well, and you can't spend, especially when the main field is starting to chase, you can't spend a lot of time on the ground trying to think about whether you're hurt or not. The most important thing that goes through your mind is get back onto the bike and get going. And it looks to me as if the Case d'Epargne team themselves there, the car also had a little bit of an accident, but it hasn't got a back window in it. And I wonder if there's been an accident out on the course involving
30 miles or so outside the finishing line in the city of Canterbury. 49 kilometres. They're looking a bit tired now. I don't blame them. This is Kuzinski at the back in his first Tour de France, looking tired. A little bit of disorganisation now, and this is how the two riders up front, and Ogier again, who's appeared to be tired, has gone once more with his French partner Bichou.
Yeah, but I think the sad thing is David Miller seems to be paying for the rapid effort that he made in the first hour of racing, and he's been caught out with Grifko. Now, let's not forget Grifko was the man who was in difficulty when we went over the last climb, the climb of Godhurst. And it seems to me as if David Miller is about to disappear from the front group, and although he was very inspirational early on, I think he's losing his mark.
Well, they sensed that this breakaway was losing its composure, and the two French riders decided to see just what's going on. And the answer is they've caught Miller and they've caught Grifko, and they're both going to sit back. The Tour de France doesn't end today in Canterbury, as those riders well know, and if you're feeling a bit tired, time to enjoy what you've done and get back into the relative comfort of the pack, because that pack will travel into town at 60 kilometres an hour, and it may even be too quick for Miller and Grifko when they do catch up with them. So we'll see. But this little trio here getting themselves back together, so we're reduced now to Kuzinski, Bichot and Ogier.
And Miller has decided to call it a day because he sat up, throws away the bottle there. Grifko, and they're going to sit up and now and wait for the main field to catch them. The reason he's doing this now, Phil, is because he realises that the legs are starting to weaken. It's no good trying to destroy yourself, because this is, after all, really only day one on the open road of a 3-week bike race. And if you're not going to win, don't waste any.
At the top of this small climb known as Farthing Common, and the field are just a hatful of seconds behind them now. Look at it, 17 seconds for the leading riders. I think it's all over now. There they are in the distance. Well, Farthing Common, little climb in Kentport. Who would have ever thought it would carry quite such a significant part of the weekend in the Great Britain roads, British roads?
I think this now is tilting to the advantage of David Miller, because Stefan Ogier has decided he's going to take it clear. And it is amazing how that things can change in the day on the Tour de France, because early on this young man looked like he's in serious difficulty. I thought he was going to get dropped on a number of occasions. He's ridden through that bad patch that he went through, and now he's looking very strong. There you've got it. David Miller, I think, now can breathe a sigh of relief, because these two riders are very rapidly back in the fold.
6 kilometres from the top of Farthing Common. Bichot, who could have been the king of the mountains in his first Tour de France, has just gone back into the field now. The boys in yellow might well shut down now. They've no reason to do this, as far as I can see, anymore.
Well, they've still got the possibility of course, Francisco Ventoso, who's been a pretty good sprinter in the early part of this season. Job done #1 is pulling back Bichot. He's back in the fold, and they will keep working. I would expect them to get some assistance now from Tom Bonin's team. You can see the dark blue jerseys of Quick-Step. They're not very far away from the front. They're waiting for the time when they need to start whipping up the pacemaker.
Well, he's stamping away on Farthing Common here. He's about a kilometre, well, he's about a mile from the top of the climb, Paul. It's amazing.
He has found something very special. All he's got to do is just to get over the top of this climb. But I think the little bit of drama at the back there was Robbie McEwen was involved in that accident, and Robbie McEwen is chasing with a couple of teammates, trying to get himself back into this race.
Well, we don't really know what happened back there. Riders changed wheels, but it might well have been a tumble of 4 or 5 riders in that narrow road. And unusual for Robbie McEwen to ever get involved in a tiff like that. He's really always brilliant bike handler. But this now is Stefan Ogier. He's hoping he's going to have the greatest moment of his life here, because he's never worn a leader's jersey of any colour in the Tour de France. And if he keeps on this, what's happening here?
Another problem with the back here. This is Mark Cavendish, who's also had a bit of a problem with his bike, and he's actually shouting at the side of the road there. The team manager is up alongside him.
He's got to stay calm. He's got to stay calm. They'll get him away quickly. Now there's a problem with the front wheel. No, that was I think that was a replay, wasn't it?
That's a little bit of panic for Mark Cavendish there. He's got to stay calm and get back into this race. Well,
This is Ogier making his way up to the front. Mark Cavendish has had his problems at the back, and Robbie McEwen has had his problems at the back. 5th Tour de France for Ogier, and he has never had a leader's jersey. Now, the problem, whatever's happened in that lane, Paul, we've had McEwen stopped. We think it was a fall. We don't know. We've had riders change tyres. The polka dot jersey tomorrow will be worn by Stefan Ogier.
It might not be. David Miller is on the front end of the main field trying to get himself second place. If David Miller in the yellow jersey gets himself second place there, he's going to be equal on points.
I think he
to
has.
That man.
Well, there was a Sonia Duval rider there. Now, we don't know if that was Miller. Paul, is this the first or the last day of the Tour de France?
I'm not really quite sure.
If that was David Miller at the front, and it looks like it was, because there he is swung back now. There was 2 Sonia Duval cross that line together. He's got the lead.
Well, we're going to have to wait for the judge's decision. I did see the last time we caught a very quick glimpse of the front end of the main field. David Miller setting the tempo. But let's not forget, you can see now Team Quickstep getting themselves organised. I need to know right now, where is Robbie McEwen, who was off the back with a couple of teammates chasing to get himself back into the main field? Where is Mark Cavendish, the Team Mobile man who was expected to do well in this sprint? He is off the back. Stefan Ogier is going to be back in the main field any moment now. There he is, and he will wonder, he will want to know. He's trying to talk to the team manager, who got second.
Well, we're waiting to find that answer as well. And what's this, a bike change again for Mark Cavendish? Well, the problem wasn't solved. Well, welcome to the Tour de France, Mark. It's your first day of a road race section of the Tour, and at the most crucial stage of the race, a man who could win today for the Isle of Man is now having to fight back into the race at just 18 kilometres from the finish. Ogier has gone back into the pack. It's blue skies overhead. It's blue jerseys on the front. Cedric Vasseur now racing for Tom Bonen of Belgium. Miller got second. Miller's on the podium tonight. We just hear it, in fact. So it is all good news for one British rider and a lot of wasted effort for another right now.
Well, that was really bad luck for Mark Cavendish. First day out on the open roads, I'm sure he was nurturing thoughts of trying to get himself a victory. Even if he does get himself filled back into this main pack, he's going to have a very sore pair of legs. This is the train behind for Robbie McEwen. Look at McEwen there, just sitting behind his teammates. They have all dropped back to try and pace Robbie McEwen into the main field. Robbie McEwen has now got less than 12 miles to get himself back into the main field. And will he then not only be able to get into the main field, but get to the front of it?
Serious look on Robbie's face right now, but it's the man has won 176 bicycle races since he turned pro in 1996. One of the fastest men ever in the world of cycling, and the second biggest winner in the current professional cycling circus. 17.5 kilometres to go. The peloton being led by the boys in blue. We've just gone under the 4 kilometres to go banner. The field are virtually all together. McEwen has got back into the peloton, but no sign of him making progress yet. 3.5 kilometres to go. Under that banner, Paul, yes, 3 kilometres to go, and our clock's slightly out today, but that's a GPS system for you, as we're now watching here the men of Tom Bonen, who've done everything to right. Bonen's won 9 times this year. He'd give them all up for a win in the stage of the Tour de France today, as now they go round these narrow roads, but this race has been so well organised now. 2.7 kilometres, 1.8 miles to go. Lamprey are confident they can take Bernati to the lead.
Well, looking over his shoulder, the Lamprey rider is looking to see where is Daniele Bernati. Now we are being left at the front with a lot of dark blue jerseys. Team Quickstep looking over their shoulders. The man who will fire it up for Team Quickstep is the man who actually doesn't wear the same colour helmet as the rest of the team. He's wearing a white helmet, Tom Bonen. And these guys now have got to keep the pace nice and high for another couple of minutes. They've still got a good organisation. This is what you call a train in the sport of professional cycling. 4 riders from Quickstep now. They will peel off as they go over these final few kilometres.
Well, they've done their job. The team domestics are out of the kitchen and working hard here now. They're doing the job for Tom Bonen. Bonen will be just out of our picture. Can't see him, but he's there with the white helmet. He's the last man in the line to be delivered to the finish if he can win. But there's other riders trying to break in. I think that's Oscar Freire, the small figure of Freire in the orange jersey, dodging in amongst the wheels now. And Zabel's team of Milram are coming through.
Well, Milram have got a very good train. They were designed, this train, to look after Alessandro Petaki, but on this occasion they're looking after Eric Zabel, the old man of the sport, and that's Zabel now up into 4th position. They're going to start climbing very shortly. They're going outside the old walls of the city of Canterbury. They make the sweeper now. Very shortly they'll take a left-hand sweeper with about a kilometre to go, and then they will start to climb up towards the finish line.
A beautiful crowd. It's a lovely day, and the Tour de France is saying its farewells to England in magnificent style here, while the lonely figure of Cavendish will come in by himself. This field has gone through the barriers, and it is looking for a lead out at 1 kilometre from the finish now. It may well be Eric Zabel who will take on Tom Bonan. I still can't see Robbie McEwen from the helicopter, but there is a jersey down there from his team. Now, as we see them come off this banner here, and our cameras have had to move away from us, but that looks as though Zabel is not far away. Zabel is lined up in 3rd place here. Bonan is in 4th place. Bernati is in 5th place. The big sprinters, and they're waiting for the move, and Foster is in there as well now. Watch out for Hunter, who's also going to have a dig for Barloworld. Robbie Hunter, as he wobbles all over the road now, and they're chasing him down as best they can, but this is going to be a win for Robbie Hunter, or is it? The South African rider is trying to take them to the line here. This would be a tremendous surprise, a wild card team for victory, as Hunter grits his teeth as he gone too soon. Robbie Hunter, Robbie McEwen is coming. McEwen, the acceleration on the middle of the picture. The man off the back is going to win. Robbie McEwen, the man from nowhere. Welcome home. Unbelievable. I don't know, Paul, how on earth does that happen?
That's impossible. What Robbie McEwen has just done, he was at the back of the main field with 5 kilometres to go. He fought his way through that field, Phil. He never gave up. He never thought about giving up for one moment. Look at this picture. You can't even see a Robbie McEwen anywhere at all in that picture. And then all of a sudden, when we pull back, there is the pink jersey of the rider from Predictor Lotto. He was down, he was out, but he's a pro. He's a professional bike rider. He waited till the last possible moment. He never panicked. He kept his calm like a magical poker player.
I can't believe that. Hunter thought he got it. Now let's look at this again. That's Robbie Hunter on the front. Look at the speed of McEwen. Off the back, off the front. Tom Bonan comes far, far too late. Hushoff too. They're all trying to get him. This is the man who is the fastest finisher. He doesn't win by inches, does he?
He certainly doesn't win by inches. He certainly wanted that. Congratulations there coming from Robert Forster as he comes across the line. What a great win.
As they file away now through the cameras, there's the two-arm salute. Is it one of amazement, or is it, hey folks, here I am? As always, McEwen, I make that a win about 178 in his career. But as far as Robbie goes, that was magnificent. And as usual, he'll have a great tale to tell us. There's the finish. Who needs a photograph when Robbie's winning? Because that for him is his 12th ever stage win in a Tour de France.
And I think that was probably the hardest one that he's ever had to come by, because he had to battle to get back into that race. And I know exactly how he had to battle to get from the back of that main field up to the front of the peloton in those final few kilometres. He must have taken incredible risks to pull himself up there. He must have gone up through the inside on a number of occasions, and there is confirmation.
The riders now briefly touch France and then go into Belgium now as the Tour de France continues. A long ride of 169 kilometres. The son of Britain could be replaced, but not only by the enthusiasm of the Belgian people, but by the rain clouds as well. But we're certain of a great day of racing to equal the wonderful start. We'll concentrate on this competition today, of course, because this is for the most consistent sprinter of the race. And Robbie McEwen here, I don't believe he believed he was still working in a daze here. And there he is. He got 35 points gathered yesterday. Hushoff in 2nd place got 30. Tom Bonan, he'll be a big man today, Paul, with 26.
He certainly will be a big man. A little bit disappointed by Tom Bonan, but out on the road today. There are 3 intermediate sprint points at Bozinga, Westender and Arzela, and there the riders across the line can get 6, 4 and 2 points. But of course, naturally, the big points on the finish line from 1st to 5th, 35, 30, 26, 24 and 22 points, going down to a single point for 25th place. I tell you what, Tom Bonan today, Phil, he's got to be my man.
We're in Belgium already, the race moving away. A little bit of rain at the start in Dunkirk today. These are the lovely chateaux which are tucked away in East and West Flanders, which is where we're racing through today. We've had one sprint result. It came at Bozinger at 45 kilometres in. The three breakaways, they're still away by the way, is Cedric Hervé, Ruben Perez and Marcel Seeberg. There they are. They got away 18 kilometres in, around about 11 miles into the race, building a lead now of 5 minutes. All of these boys blazing, pioneering, Paul, their first Tour de France trail.
I think everybody excited after having a wonderful weekend in the United Kingdom, and now that we're actually sort of right on the continent, having left France behind very early this morning, these guys, I think, want to try and, as you say, blaze a trail. They're trying to build up an advantage if they can. It's currently up to the 5-minute mark, but I think with so many great sprinters in the race and the sprinters' delight at the finish line here in Ghent, I think once again we'll see a very similar scenario to that of yesterday when they get chased down towards the end.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. Dry roads at the moment and everybody fearing the strong winds which tend to blow here, but they're not here today, very strangely. Now we're going to show you during the coverage heartbeats out on the course. We should have them on us in the sprint finish, Paul. But these are the riders who have heart rate monitors today in the peloton. Not all of them. We've given them to the ones we can find at the beginning, and we'll be reading what the hearts are doing as they come towards the finish. Well, this is the beauty of England behind us now, but this is a wonderful active part as far as cycling is concerned now in Belgium here, as the Belgian flags fly proudly, and the crowds will be big, believe me. We've got to ride now. These boys are just desperate acts here, final throws perhaps, but they're making this peloton keep asking themselves, are we going to bring these riders back or not? Are they going to spoil a brilliant day in Belgium for perhaps Tom Bonen or even Robbie McEwen, because he is basically a Belgian during the cycling season. They're down there, the flotilla of motorbikes, proximity of the riders. Look at the crowds here now, as if you didn't know we were in Belgium. There's plenty of flags to prove it, and they are still holding them up. 15 seconds.
15 seconds is really not very much at all. If you want to calculate how much it is in distance, that's around about 250 meters. That's all the advantage these riders have got. And if you look at all the motorbikes and all of the cars that are moving forward, that's the race referees getting everybody out of that gap, because the race referees know that this is about to be an imminent catch. But these riders, Phil, they are so brave, so courageous. They will not give up until the last possible moment. 5 kilometers to go.
As Seeberg turns the gas now, because the rain has stopped, the humidity, as you can see, is on our camera lens. It all brings this rather eerie feeling to the Tour de France.
Riding through the mist, and this is a great move by Perez as he goes past now. This is a last-ditch effort. 12 seconds over the main field. He's got the gap.
5 to go. Rubens has gone. A Spanish rider leading in the Tour de France on a flat stage. Not unprecedented, but virtually so. And now it is again Hervé who tries to make amends. But I'm not sure now. But look at the face of Seeberg too. They're hesitating. I think this is the last one. He's going to be on his own now. He's going to have to make it himself or not. We are only 4 kilometers from the finish, and he's holding 12 seconds.
Well, he's holding 12 seconds. He's got to ride like the wind now if this man from the mountains of Spain wants to win on the flatlands of Belgium. He's looking now at just outside 4 kilometers to go. Here comes the big, strong Seeberg. I said he was the strongest rider in the group. He's come across that gap as if it was nothing.
But can he take a deep breath and get through, because here comes Hervé again. The three men have been together, the Musketeers, all for one, one for all, as they broke away at 18 kilometers. They are now 3 from the end. Haven't seen that peloton now for 140 kilometers, but they might see it in just a moment. The Lamprey boys are here now for Daniela Benatti as well. They've really made a meal of this.
They have made a very long effort to try and catch those 3 riders, but once those 3 riders now started to attack like that, Phil, they will lose their impetus, they will lose their average speed, they will drop down from 45 kilometers an hour to 42 or 43. The race on the front of the main field now needs to get organized. So there's no one team. There's a lot of pink jerseys up there. That's T-Mobile. Those will be the riders looking for Mark Cavendish, who had a little bit of bad luck on the roads of the United Kingdom yesterday, but will hope to make that good this afternoon when he's on the roads of Belgium, where he had his first ever major success.
Cavendish is right in there at the tail of those T-Mobile riders. He has made the right end of the split today at 3 kilometres to go. There is the banner. They've timed it to perfection. Look over your shoulders, boys. Well done, all three of you. But now get out of the way, because the train is about to mow you down as Liquigas also leads the charge. On the far right now is Quickstep. Now, will anybody try the luck?
Well, if Tom Bonan wants to win this race here this afternoon, as they can negotiate that nasty little bend here, that's the bend at 3 kilometres to go I told you about. It's fairly straight now as we line up towards the finish line. This is the circular road around Ghent. They've got that final little kick at 750 metres to go, but for Tom Bonan to win, he needs to be launched into action. They call him Torpedo Tom here in Belgium, and he will be right at the end of all of his teammates. But floating in his slipstream, you can be absolutely certain there'll be a little man from Australia, the man in the green jersey, who for the moment we still can't see, and that is Robbie McEwen.
And trying to get on terms, Mark Cavendish team of Great Britain. They're the riders in the mauve, and the blue jerseys are the jerseys of Tom Bonan. This is going to be death strip finish. These are the first time. Oh, there's been a terrible pile up there. A massive pile up on the road. The yellow jersey has gone. He will get the same time because of their international regulations. They will not lose time, but how many are down and who has gone down?
Well, I'm not sure who the first man was to go down there, but went very hard. It looks as if there's a green jersey gone down there as well. It's not very often you see Robbie McEwen. That could be a rider from Crédit Agricole. That's a little bit of chaos inside the last 3Ks. T-Mobile are now in control.
Has this worked the other way today for Mark Cavendish, who is up here with the lead out, as Oscar Freire is also still in there, and I think Bonan may be there, but I'm not sure.
Bonan, I think, must be right in there. These riders stopped at the back end of the group. They know that when they come to the finish line, because they're inside the final 3 kilometres, they'll get the same time as the rest of the main field, but the battle is on at the front. This is the chaos that happens when there's a mass pile-up in a race like the Tour de France. But I tell you one thing, it's the men from Tom Bonan's team who've got the big lead out. Eric Zabel likes this kind of finish, but Bonan is there in 4th position. He's got his 3 men. I can see the green jersey there of Robbie McEwen in 8th position. I can also see there Thor Hushoff as well.
Well, as we approach the line now, the big lead out for the man who is expected to win for Belgium, but the McEwen did miss out the crash, and he's off to the left, 3 men back. Oscar Freire is in there as well. These are the champions. Freire's digging deep. Bonan and Zabel have the best position. Felu is going to have another go here as well. Zabel senses this might be for him. As our cameras cut away now, they line up. This is the kick for the line. Bonan knows it's there. He's waiting to the last possible minute for the move. The final lead out by Gert Stegmans now for Tom Bonan. Zabel is digging in as well. I don't think Robbie is... It is a desperate finish, but he takes it on the line, and not only that, but it is first and second.
I tell you what, Phil, did you hear the cheer on the opposite side of the finish line there when Tom Bonan crossed the line in first place? He had a very difficult time getting that victory, but that was good teamwork by Team Quickstep. This is the little bit of devastation that has happened behind, and what a dramatic crash that was. Once again, it just goes to prove you have to be right at the front end of the main field if you don't want to be involved in any of these kind of accidents on the run into the finish. This man coming in from Quickstep saluting the crowd because he knows Big Tom has got the win for Belgium here this afternoon.
And that's what matters to them. But what damage has happened into the Tour de France looking long-term here? The yellow jersey was there, and there the first to congratulate Bonan is the winner of yesterday, Robbie McEwen, as they ask all of the press to kindly stop pushing. It's been a tough sprint here. Now, the regulations state when you fall in the last 3 kilometres, you cannot lose time. You get the time of the group you are with when you fall. And, of course, the whole field was together. So Cancellara should keep his overall lead. But the question is, are they injured? Michael Rogers here on the left.
It's a lot of riders. I mean, Phil, that crash happened inside of the first 25 riders, so there weren't very many riders left standing at the end of the day. These guys just cruising to the finish, but I'll tell you what, the Belgians will be celebrating here this afternoon.
Well, the results are saying that Gert Stegmans may have won this, Paul, on the photo finish, and maybe he was the lead-out man for Tom Bonen, but maybe because of that finish, Tom didn't have the kick to get round his own teammate. Now, that was, of course, the lead-out man for Robbie McEwen. Now Stegmans has come across to the side of Tom Bonen. Team Discovery Channel here, Thomas Vakas on the left here, looks as though he's hurt himself. He would have been in the sprint today, and look at this too. I don't like the way the Cancellara is holding his left arm, Paul. That does not look good.
No, it looks as if he went down rather heavily on that. He's holding his hand up. That's an indication that he's a little bit injured. He will be given the yellow jersey this afternoon, but he looks like a man who went down very hard indeed. It will be, nice to go and see the photo finish, because Stegmans is a very rapid finisher, and maybe Tom Bonen just could not get past his own teammate.
Well, that will be a definite win in the camp of Quick Step, so there won't be too much disappointment either way there. But I also saw David Miller clearly may not have fallen, but may have been delayed by the crash. Here's the congratulations. For my money, it was Stegmans, because it looked to me as I thought we were going to give you a replay there.
Well,
yes, they are. Let's have a look. Stegmans is the man. No, we've cut away. We're not in control of the pictures. Here we go again. That's Bonen's second wheel. Now comes the time. Stegmans can't ease off because the riders are on his wheel, so he keeps the pressure on. It's up to Mr. Tom here to get by him. Our camera, unfortunately, not showing the bottom, but for me, it's going to be desperately close here as they race. And look at the face of Robbie Hunter to the right, Foster way off to the right, McEwen also washed away, Zabel centre left. I said Stegmans, he knows it.
Well, Tom Bonen was
it looks obvious on that pitch. Stegmans has won. Gert Stegmans has won the race. There's no question about that. Well, good for him.
Well, I'll tell you one thing, I don't think Tom Bonen actually could get by him there, but that's a great result for Team Quickstep. That was a massive acceleration. Good job of work. You can see there in third place is Eric Zabel. Robbie Hunter looks like he's going to creep well inside of the top four there as well. Hunter over on the left-hand side in the red for Team Barlow-Word, trying to sneak up the outside of Eric Zabel. And in fact, I think at the end of the day, Hunter may well have got himself a nice third position. Tom Bonen, I don't think Phil will be very upset at all about that, because he likes a win for his teammates too.
Absolutely. A win is a win, and it's in the camp. Well, here we are in Ghent. The first time the finish has been here since 1958 it was. There's Gert Stegmans getting a tremendous victory at the moment. Let's have a look. We can give you the results so far. Here they are. Gert Stegmans getting the win ahead of Tom Bonen. Filippo Pozzato appearing for the first time in third. Hunter confirming his ride yesterday by taking fourth. And Feilu is there again. McEwen this time is in sixth. Zabel is in seventh. These are the men who missed the crash. Again, Sebastian Chavanel riding his first tour, completing top 10. Further down, more sprinters in those top 15. In the 20th place, Fischer gets in. These riders now all getting the same time, as the whole field will get the same time today. They won't lose time for falling off, but can they get themselves back together again? As we look down to the top 25, Tozzato there, completing the top 25 riders from Michelob Ultra. Fabian Cancellara getting in the race lead here, 13 seconds. It's the same as ever because they all got the same time. David Miller holds on to third place. Hincapie on to fourth. I can hear the music. Yes, there we are. Let's go down. And up comes Gert Stegmans, kisses the sky. He has won the stage here, and that is a tremendous result for him. Fabian Cancellara, they're getting him ready round the back. I hope they can get him out to get another yellow jersey, but will he be able to ride tomorrow? That's evolving news as the night goes on, of course. How many of those riders will ride tomorrow? But certainly this was a great day out. There's where we are tomorrow, stage 3, Waregem to Compiègne. President of Napoleon III. This is the city of Compiègne, where the race has now come home to French soil after starting in England and visiting Belgium. The battle continues for the green points jersey, but the sprinters, because of time bonuses, are also closing in now on Cancellara's yellow jersey. Yes, hi everybody, I'm Phil Liggett. This is Paul Sherwin. He has a memory problem because back in 1980, the only other time the race has ever come here in Compiègne, Paul says, I rode the race in 1980. I don't remember coming here. We checked the result. He finished in 12th place. That's one story. Paul, today let's talk about the battle for yellow as well as the battle for green, because it's true, the sprinters are closing in.
The sprinters are closing in. The first few days of the Tour de France over the flat stages, it gives the sprinters a chance to grapple away and try and get a chance to wear the yellow jersey. Points available today on these flat stages. As you mentioned, the big points, though, Phil, are all stacked up at the finish line. Between 1st and 5th place, you get 35 points down to 22 points. If you cross the line in 25th place, you'll get yourself a single point.
So there we are. We're now looking across the red roofs of France here now as the riders have crossed the border. There is a breakaway on. It got away after only 5 kilometres. Not surprisingly, the riders were released by the peloton. Nobody to actually chase them down. Mathieu Lanagnou, Française de Jeu, and Nicolas Vongedi from the AG2R team, and they are both French riders. There's the weather conditions, 54 degrees Fahrenheit. The conditions are cloudy, the wind a southwest gentle one from 10 miles per hour. And the peloton, well, they picked up the pace a bit earlier because we did get a lead of nearly 14 minutes with these two riders at only 40 kilometres covered. But the tempo's been picked up. There is the man who sat down on top of the lot in the race yesterday, Fabien Cancellara. He's okay. Probably a bit stiff as Robin McEwen is on the right-hand side and his left shoulder. He also said it's his back which has been very stiff since the crash he had, but he too is riding okay. And he won the stage, remember, despite that crash. He's stepping up onto his bike again, Paul.
Well, a lot of riders went down very hard indeed, and I'm sure there's still a few of them licking their wounds this morning because that was a very nasty crash. The first sprint point of the day when we went through Tournai, the man who went there in first place was Nicolas Vongedi, a former national French champion. Lanagnou at that point was in second. The main field, which came across for third place, were already more than 11 minutes behind, led in there by Astroloza.
Up to 13 minutes after that sprint, which was after only 33 kilometres, 20 miles. But that's all gone now. We're heading for Fontaine-aux-Bois for the next sprint point. It's a long way down the road. It's a long, lonely ride today for these two guys, but it won't be all day. From over 14 minutes to 7 minutes and 50 seconds. And the two Frenchmen, well, I think they would have hoped that somebody else had attacked when they did after only 5 kilometres, because they're facing up to the longest stage of the race. The weather forecast is reasonably good, although I have to say, commentating here from the finishing line in Compiègne, it's quite chilly. Rain has threatened but not come. But we have heard, by the way, Paul, that where we're going to Tignes in the Alps, which is only a few days away, it was snowing there yesterday.
That's a little bit of a worry, and I think it's also a little bit of a worry when you speak to the team manager of Française de Jeu, Martial Gaillon, and you say, now, what is the chance of the success of this breakaway this afternoon? Because after all, Martial Gaillon, who is from this region, has got a man in the breakaway. He said, well, the chance of success today is basically 0. So you may well ask, why are they doing it? But the reason they're doing it is for a little bit of glory, get the sponsor's name out onto TV, and of course to pick up some cash points along the way as well.
Welcome back. Still at the finishing line here. The caravan continues to arrive. The riders have been in the saddle for nearly 6 hours at the moment, and they're still a good hour away from the finishing line here as they're approaching the final 50 kilometres of the day, 31 miles. Their choice, and here we go now. A little bit of an attack here now, and it had to come. It's come a bit earlier than we actually thought would happen, as they've now started. This is Cofidis who decided to open up the fray. Time to reel in perhaps the two riders out in front and decide who is going to be in the mix for what would be a bunch sprint. I think we're saying goodbye to Charmes, the town that was totally destroyed in the First World War and has been rebuilt, as has its famous church, St. Peter's. We've had a glimpse of that during the coverage. And two riders going clear. Liquigas, third placed yesterday with Felipe Passato, are the two leaders here. And they will continue to see Frederick Willems.
I thought it was Charlie Wigelis looking to get himself off the front, but this man, Frederick Willems, just a little bit bigger than Charlie Wigelis, joined by the Cofidis rider. Cofidis is a team from the north of France, and obviously they were given the nod by the team management to try and get out on the front and start the aggression. They're not being given very much of an advantage there, though, as we go through the cornfields there over on the left-hand side, or maize. As you can see, The main field is taking this pretty much more seriously than the two riders who've been out at the front of the race for a long time, and the gap you can see is all of a sudden starting to tip down very rapidly. The two riders at the front of the race, and he's explained that in fact the two chasers are now only 39 seconds behind the two leaders, and he said to them that, hold on, wait for these two guys to come. They're strong riders. Once you form an alliance with them, we may well have a situation here where we can out-sprint and outperform the sprinters.
Well, I'll tell you what, the average speed, Paul, it'll go up now a little bit, but today is 33 kilometres an hour, just over 20.5 miles an hour. And normally you would expect to be racing on these stages at around 40-45 kilometres an hour. But the two riders up front, and they're in the distance, and there they are, and here comes the help now. This is what they're waiting for. Four riders together, who knows what will happen. This man, his race finishes about 25 kilometres before the end. All Stefan wants is to be over the top of that hill in the first three positions, and he will go on the podium tonight as leader in the King of the Mountains.
I'm surprised to see David Miller hasn't sent his team to the front to try and defend that position, because he'd said as far as he was concerned he could keep the lead in that competition all the way down to the Alps, and if he wanted to do that he needs to take the responsibility now. But they're gambling on the fact that the teams of the sprinters are going to do the majority of the pacemaking, and I think really that's been the situation of the race today. Everybody's been sitting back waiting for the sprinters teams to come forward and do all of the work.
We're hearing 3 minutes 5 seconds now for the peloton. And back, that's Fede Rodriguez, number 47. He's got his left leg bandaged. And he's probably got bandages where we can't see them either under his racing jersey, because he had a nasty fall.
Carlos Sastre here, number 31. That indicates that he's the leader of his team. And he's basically, I think, up alongside the team car, taking on board drinks. You're allowed to do this up until 30 kilometres to go till the end. And Carlos Sastre, a fair way down in the overall classification at the moment, but I'll tell you one thing, I have a feeling that Carlos Sastre will climb up once we get into the mountains. They've made it.
All together, four riders in the lead, and they got up very, very quickly when they wanted to. Now there's a difference in the tempo. All of a sudden, La Danube and Vogandy will work with these riders now, and there's there's three teams represented as well up here. So this is going 4 teams represented. So that means 4 teams won't be chasing back in that main field now. Also a pointer. And look at the difference in the pace now, 52 kilometres to go.
Well, this completely and utterly changes the physiognomy of the race. So we talked about two men who were starting to weaken, who'd been at the front of the bike race for an awful long time. Now they've just received reinforcements for 2 riders who've been sitting in the main field all day, sheltered from the wind. One man who's got a serious need to stay clear until they get to the big climb of the day, the only climb of the day. That's the man on the front now in the red jersey of Cofidis, Stefan Ogier. Looking over his shoulder, wants some help and assistance from these guys, and they've actually got a pretty nice advantage. 3 minutes over the This now indicates 5 kilometres to go, 3 miles to go, 3/4 of a minute.
3 miles to go, 3/4 of a minute. Yes, Paul, is just a chance. We usually talk about a minute every 10 kilometres, but this is the last 5 kilometres of the day. They are going very, very quickly now. The peloton are racing in excess of 55 kilometres an hour. The boys up front probably slightly less at 52.
See to go. I don't want to lose any precision. The Wu 5 seconds with 5 kilometres to go of riding. They look to me as if they're on schedule here to catch a kilometre to go to the finish, but they still can't give up. Frederick Willems there keeps looking at the other guys saying, come on, we need a little bit more energy. We've got a chance here to create the surprise. But if they look over their shoulders now, Phil, it will be a gap, and what they will see, it'll be a black heaving mass behind them, which is the peloton trying to pull back their prey.
Well, there is the 4 kilometres for the peloton. It looks down there now. We've got Crédit Agricole, Liquigas, Passato showed us yesterday. Quinziato also is a good sprinter, but he crashed yesterday. And now we have the Crédit Agricole boys on the front, creeping up on the outside. A little bit of pushing and shoving now, because the sprint
past a kilometre. Think, well, how am I going to have a little bit more energy to look after my man? Willems now has seen the chance. This is a big chance for Willems. He's tried to go off the front here, and he's got himself a slight gap.
Well, there's the balloon.
Moved though by Nicolas Vogandy in second place. He's a serious pro. He's been around for a number of years. He's been the French national champion in the past. He knew this was a good move, and he scrambled across the gap there. The other 2 riders, I think, have given up the ghost, but no, they haven't. Ogier has seen this as his last-ditch effort to try and get himself a stage victory for Cofidis. There's the main field.
Back. Nicolas Vaugandy is going, and the other two are clawing them back. The field will be in our vision very quickly, but we're heading for 2 kilometres. They've left the catch even later than yesterday, and we all know what happened yesterday. This is a huge effort by Frederic Willems of Belgium, and the 3 Frenchmen have nailed him back. And Paul, that peloton is not close enough.
They are not there yet. It's 24 seconds. That big acceleration by Willems there, in fact, has stretched out the advantage again. They're inside of 2 kilometres to go. 2,000 metres is all these guys are looking at.
They are not
you
going
can
to
see
do
the
it,
main
Paul.
field.
I don't see how they can cross that gap now. And they've looked over the shoulders. Vaugandy's looked over. Don't ease up now, because the race is here.
The only way the main field are going to catch them, if those guys start playing that tactical manoeuvring of slowing down and waiting to see if they can save a little bit of energy on the charge to the line, because the main field won't. Willems has gone again. It was 20 seconds at 2 kilometres to go. Willems has got the strength, but he can't get rid of the Frenchmen, and they are like sandbags to him. He wants to throw them out and float to victory.
Well, I'll tell you what, if Stefan Ogier wins this stage, he only has to win by 18 seconds, and he'll be the yellow jersey of the race as well. And we're getting very close to the finish now. We're not there yet. We're racing down through the banks of the River Seine through Compiègne. We swing away. It might be against the riders. It is slightly uphill over the cobblestones.
Couple of nasty corners as we come up towards the finish line. They're starting to panic now. They're looking over their shoulders. They know the main field will not give up. There's the main field. It's looking at about 200 metres. They're not too far now. They're going to start to line up. They're not far away from the Flamme Rouge, and then the long straight to the finish line. This is very dangerous for these guys, but it's more dangerous for the men behind. There's the kite.
And these are the peloton here. They're on the cobblestones. They may totally have misjudged this today. A brilliant move. Those 2 riders strengthened by 2 more. If they win, they've been in the lead for 231 kilometres, and the peloton pass under the Flamme Rouge. We will quickly switch to the leaders.
Well, you can see now on the front, Lampre, everyone's panicking. The leading group of 4 riders, they've absolutely started to mess around. This is the cat and mouse tactics. This will lose the race for them. They've got to keep going. Somebody now has to take the responsibility, but Fabien Cancellara.
I do not believe this. The strength of the race leader has gone after them himself to save his yellow jersey from Ogier, and Cancellara has taken off. There's confusion behind. Quick steps at when is Tom Bonen going to make his move? Is Mark Cavendish right on the front there? These boys, Vaugandy looks over, they're going to give it to the yellow jersey. This is going to be a huge press, and what a ride by Cancellara. He suddenly sensed he can win the stage from absolutely nowhere. They've wiped them out on the line of the stage of the Tour de France. 400 metres, 300 metres. Cancellara, the strong man of the time trial, has ridden them off his wheel. He is going to come up to the line here now. The move behind as Robbie McEwen kicks. McEwen and Robbie Hunter. Hunter now Bonen on the left. Cancellara, Zabel's on Cancellara's wheel, and it looks as though we've got Cancellara, Zabel on the line. Napolitano, Bonen, they all got beaten by the yellow jersey. That'll serve them right.
Well, that serves them completely and utterly right. Cancellara was sitting in the right place waiting for the move. He saw his opportunity. He's not really a great sprinter, but he's a great man over the final kilometre. He saw that move. Look at this. Zabel's face is scrunched up in agony. Napolitano a little bit further back, but look at the concentration, the style of Fabien Cancellara in the front. At this point, Eric Zabel knew he was not going to do it anymore, and Cancellara waves his arms in the air in victory, saluting the yellow jersey. What a way to win.
Well, that was an end to a very strange day of racing, but what a brilliant win by Cancellara. The world time trial champion showed them how he can ride a road race. The race behind him, that's Zabel. McEwen's run was spoilt by Robbie Hunter there a little bit, and Bonen was on the far right. Eric Zabel gets second, Napolitano third, and Bonen there will take fourth. But what strength to ride from the front of the peloton, reach the breakaway and beat him on the line. I can't believe this, neither can his team.
That really was a great move there. You have to have guts and courage to make a move like that. This man is gasping for oxygen now. We were worried about him losing his lead with about 5 kilometres today. With the 20-second time bonus, he's going to keep that yellow jersey now, Phil, for a few more days and not have to worry about the sprinters.
He's now going to look at a 33-second lead with that 20-second time bonus instead of 13 seconds. So that's what you do, and what a great delivery. This time yesterday he was sitting on the road and then riding in looking as though he was out of the Tour with a damaged wrist. Today he's saluting the crowd in Compiègne, and he beat all of the sprinters to do it. That was a fantastic finish.